The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS Today podcast. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd, and I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am going to be running through a very juicy 7-game NBA DFS slate for this evening, and it is my weekly solo show, so we will walk through, look at pace of play, look at defensive rating. If there's any player news that's come out, then we will also review that. But as we get started here, though, I would like to thank our presenting sponsor, Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. I'm actually drinking a delicious French roast cup of Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee right now. I am doing the show the day of in the morning as opposed to the night before like we usually do. So hopefully we'll have a little bit more up-to-date information, player news, all of that kind of stuff. All right. As far as how I did want to mention Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee, you can either go to their website at Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company, order through them direct. Or for me, the easiest is always going right through Amazon. You just a couple of clicks and it is literally at your doorstep the next day. So really recommend those guys. They are the best. All right, like I said, we have a 7-game slate. Looks like we have it spread out through the entire evening, a couple of early games. We do have mid evening game and then a late night sweat game. So it should be some really good contests out there. I know, football grabs a lot of the DFS action a lot of times on Sundays and sometimes Mondays with Monday Night Football, but you'll see a lot spike back up in NBA Tuesday through the week. So the NBA has done a good job this week too. There's not crazy swings of games where you have 1 or 2 games and then 15 games. So got a lot of good slates like tonight with the 7-gamer that should get us right into play. Okay, let's go right straight for the first game. It is a 7 p.m. Eastern Standard game. It's the Detroit Pistons at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Detroit 7-13, Cleveland 5-14. Cleveland is somewhat of a dumpster fire. We all know that. They are not playing well. They're very, very young, playing basically 3 rookies a good portion of the time. And Detroit's starting to get it together a bit with Blake Griffin back, and their team is getting healthy again. Just Reggie Jackson remains out, but the rest of the squad is pretty much up and going. From a pace of play standpoint, let's take a look here. Detroit is now sitting all the way down to 26, which isn't surprising because they have, with Reggie out especially, have been playing a lot of half-court sets where they're getting those coming off the curl jumpers from Kennard, or else Griffin's running sort of a point forward spot and moving the ball around, or else they're just pounding it into Drummond. So they are definitely a slower paced team as the day goes. They've slid all the way down to 26th. So something to be wary of. And Cleveland is 24th. So this is not going to be a high possession, high scoring game from the pace, which definitely has to give you some concern without question. The only other aspect that makes it a little bit more palatable is on the defensive efficiency side. Detroit is 20th and Cleveland is 24th. So, that creates a situation where there could be somebody that goes off and even with a low over-under that really could cause some trouble here. Personally, for me, though, this is not going to be a game that I'm going to focus on. I know Drummond is a monster. Cleveland's interior defense is bad, really bad. They're undersized. They really don't have anybody to match up with Drummond. They'll throw Tristan Thompson and a bunch of guys to try to double him inside. But this is a smash spot for Drummond. There's no question about it. I think he'll be super highly owned. I'm just concerned of the pace of play and the fact that Griffin is supposed to get bigger minutes tonight. And, there's no doubt, as dominant as Drummond is in the paint, Griffin definitely steals a little bit of that action from him. There's no doubt about it. So just not real comfortable going there. On the Cleveland side, if their big guys in being Love, Nance, and Tristan Thompson on the front line are playing, they should share some rebounding duties and sort of split up those stats as well. Plus, with the bigs from Detroit grabbing a bunch of that action, it's not going to be a real conducive spot for Cleveland bigs to get big numbers. And then Cleveland's backcourt. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, they've got all young guys. They all share the ball on a given night. It may be Sexton. Garland's starting to pick it up a little bit. Porter gets action. So all that being said, I certainly will use Drummond in a GPP because he has potential to break the slate here. But as far as the cash game goes, this is not a game that I am going to focus on. So let's move on to game 2. Another 7 p.m. Eastern game. It's the Orlando Magic 8-11 versus the Washington Wizards 6-12. We look at pace in this game. The Wizards now have moved into first place for the first time this year as the fastest paced team in the league. A lot of that is because they don't play any defense. They're 30th, so they're dead last in defense and number 1 in pace. If that's not a combination to target Wizards games, then there isn't ever one to do that. So, in the near future, any Wizards game that's being played, it's going to be a massive pace up for the other team because they're Washington's number 1. And the other team's going to be going against the worst defense in the league, which is another big boost. So, does that make this game playable? Sure. You got Orlando, unfortunately, who, is the slowest paced team in the league. So we have the number 1 and the number 30. So to say it's a pace up game for Orlando's is a bit of a big statement, and a pace down game for Washington can't get bigger than that. On the defensive side of the ball, Orlando is 9th. They're playing pretty stingy defense. They are getting it done. So, on the Washington side, number 1, they're just not playing good ball. Number 2, it's the biggest pace down game ever. And number 3, they're going against a pretty sound Orlando defensive team. Even with Vuk out, I think Orlando might even be better defensively because Birch and Bamba get after it, protect the rim. And with Gordon and, the rest of the squad in there, they're really, they get it done. They're a good shutdown squad. So I'm passing on Washington 100%. You have to put some Orlando guys in play here, just based on the fact that all those statistics that I was reading, and it's it just really a good spot for Orlando to have a few guys 7-8x. So the question is, which guys? Gordon is back playing solid minutes. He's been very inconsistent. He has games where he's, 2x and games where he's 6x. So trying to get Aaron Gordon right is like shooting darts at a dartboard. It really is tough. One guy that I like as a monster value and has been playing better is Kem Birch. I'm sort of in the Birch bandwagon until Vuk's back. I think he's getting more meaningful minutes than Bamba. He's definitely offensively can finish at the rim and get some rebounds. And for his price, it's not hard for him to make value at all. So I think you have to consider him. The other guy that I'm going to go with here is Evan Fournier. He's a guy that I like to target in games where they're playing against poor defensive teams because he is ball dominant. I know with Gordon and Vuk off the floor, he's coming in at about 33% usage, but he's still pretty high up there in the upper 20s with Vuk out. So my focus in this game is going to be it's going to be, Fournier, as I said, and Kem Birch for sure. I mean, you can go even deeper if you want to really stack this game. There's a couple of boom bust guys that are options that can get it done. The question is, hitting them in the right spot. I'm thinking this game, the fact that it's in Washington, it may be a little bit more competitive. And Washington seems to get blown out. I know 3 of their last 4, they've just gotten obliterated, including 2 games where they were down in the 40s, in the second half. So that affects a lot of things, including minutes played for and against, and it skews the numbers a little bit. But I really think, this one stays close enough to get a truer look at what's possible in this game. So I would start with those 2 guys and, watch news as things are going. And you can even maybe step it up with one more Magic guy. Okay, let's go on to game number 3. We have the Miami Heat 14-5 at the Toronto Raptors 15-4. What a great game. Although I said that last week when it was Miami at Philly, I was all pumped up for it. And Philly beat Miami by 1 million. So hopefully this is a great game. I think it will be. Lowry is close to being back. I don't think he is back for this game just yet, but keep abreast of that news. Obviously, with these 2 teams, you have 2 fantastic defensive squads that have great schemes defensively, great coaches. I love both of those guys. I think they're both top 5 coaches in the league with Spoelstra and Nurse. Defensively, right now, they're sitting Toronto at 2nd and Miami at 6th. So this could be a knockdown, drag out, defensive playoff field type of a game, without question. If you look at pace, Miami's sitting 15th, right dead square in the middle, and Toronto is 13th. So you've got 2 teams playing at a very normal pace, but 2 teams that can really defend, which makes it a lot tougher of a play. I do believe that I know that Goran Dragic is out in this game, and I also know that Tyler Hero's coming off his worst game as a pro with 2 points, I believe. Dragic not coming off that bench makes a huge difference for the Heat because he absorbs a lot of minutes, a lot of usage, and he's been scoring a lot of fantasy points. So it definitely brings guys like Kendrick Nunn and certainly Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero also into play. It's hard to target guys at Toronto against Toronto's defense. They have had some higher scoring games, although I think this one will stay pretty close. I like the fact that Butler is going to probably guard Siakam. I think that will slow Siakam down a little bit. The guy I'm going to play here, though, is Fred VanVleet. I think VanVleet has just been incredible. His usage is phenomenal. His minutes played, everything is plus plus. When Lowry comes back, it's going to take a big dent out of all those things that I just mentioned for VanVleet. Not that he'll be not a good play, but he's not going to be a smash play like he is right now. The industry hasn't really adjusted completely to VanVleet's great play. I mean, his price has gone up, but not to the point where he's really valued like some of the guys that I think he's been outscoring on a fairly regular basis. So VanVleet's one of my favorite plays. I want to utilize one of the guards from the Heat, and it's either going to be Kendrick Nunn or Tyler Hero. It's going to be dependent on salary and what I have, what I can fit in there. Nunn is more expensive than Hero, and that roster construction makes a huge difference. As far as the bigs go, the defense is just too strong here, in my opinion. I mean, Ibaka's back now, so you have his presence in the middle. Gasol still an ex-defensive player of the year. And Siakam defends well on Miami side. Ibaka, obviously Butler, and the guys that will be able to guard people in the post. Just I think they just eliminate each other here. So I don't think it's a massive DFS friendly game. It's certainly the game I'm going to watch because I think it's going to be the best game of the night. But like I say, I'm going to go VanVleet and then a little correlation on the other side with either Nunn or Hero. All right, a couple things to mention before we go to game 4. Please, if you have a chance, first of all, you can listen to us every day on free in front of the paywall, 7-day-a-week NBA DFS fantasy podcasts. And, very, very hard to find anything that's as consistent, as accurate, and, is free above the paywall. Yes, there's some other folks out there that do some good stuff, but, there generally is a pretty hefty price tag with getting some of that information. We are able to bring that forward every day because of hoop-ball.com and Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company. So, look us up, listen to us. I know it's part of your day. We've had a ton of tweets coming in, and I really appreciate all the plus feedback and positive stuff that's been coming in. So keep that up. But, you can listen to us every day where podcasts are heard anywhere, whether it be iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, YouTube. And again, we'd ask that you take that extra 15, 30 seconds, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars, likes, positive reviews, thumbs up, whatever you can to help continue to promote our show. Send us feedback, hit us up on Twitter. We just love to get that information. It helps us build a platform going forward. I mean, we're still, sort of the new kid on the block. We started this preseason and went through every single preseason game. We're going to do every regular season and every playoff game. So we're with you literally from beginning to end of the NBA season, and want to just help you take down some big GPPs and build your bankroll in cash, whatever strategy that you bring forward. So we appreciate you, jumping on there and commenting, and that's very much appreciated. Okay, game 4 is the Dallas Mavericks, 13-6, coming off that big crushing of the Lakers, at the New Orleans Pelicans, 6-14. Pelicans are starting to show a little bit more life. They've been in some games. They had a good win the other day. They still don't have Zion back, obviously. Hopefully he'll be back in January, and then we can see, what the Pelicans are made of. It's going to be an interesting game, though. Dallas is on a road trip. They've been on the road here for a while, played out west, come back to play at the Pelicans. And this is going to be an interesting game. It's the TNT game. Luka's probably going to be the highest owned guy on the slate. Everybody's, jumping on the Luka bandwagon, and deservedly so. The dude has just been absolutely bonkers. I mean, he's been unbelievable. Is this a good play for him tonight? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it this way. I think Dallas is a much better team than the Pelicans, but they're on a road trip. It's in New Orleans, so it could stay close enough to see a big minutes game from Luka. However, I think he's going to get some pesky defense. I think Drew Holiday is a really good on-the-ball defender. I know statistically the backcourt for the Pelicans has been atrocious this year, all in all, but a lot of that's been because Drew missed like 6 games. There's been a rotation of guys. So, I wouldn't heed too much into the statistics there. Let's look at the pace of play in this game real quick. Dallas is sitting at 19th, so they are getting a little bit of Luka iso ball at times that is slowing down their pace just a little bit. And then on the New Orleans side, they're all the way up to 5th. So that's another positive for the Mavericks, is that it is a big pace-up game for them. The other positive for the Mavericks is the Pelicans are 26th. So they're 5th from last in defense, which will definitely also help Dallas. Dallas is sitting at 17th. They've been hovering in the middle of the pack defensively. They've had some very high-scoring games along the way, some 130s, upper 130s. So, if this game does take that type of script of being a high-scoring game, this may be the game you need to have some key guys here in order to take down anything in the slate. I think it will be a very popular stack game, being the fact that it's Luka and being the fact that it's a national TV game on TNT. It's not going to be the biggest stack game for me. I like some stuff in these next 2 games, as well. But I think the smart plays in this game, if you're going to use your buy-up chip for Luka, absolutely would say that, there's no way you can say that's a bad play. The dude's like 30, 10, and 10 average, so it's ridiculous. Other plays on the Dallas side, this could be a fantastic matchup for Porzingis. I just don't see the Pelicans having anybody that can match up with him. I think that creates a really open spot for him for the mid-range jumper and some putbacks and rebounds. I think the Pelicans have struggled on the interior since Kenrich Williams hurt his ankle. He was their best interior defender, and Okafor's been slumped. Favors remains out. So they're talking about, it's looking like their interior defenders, Jackson Hayes, who's a younger guy and can be athletic maybe a little bit with Porzingis, but I think Porzingis, just his size, and he's actually going to be much stronger than Hayes. So I think Porzingis is a fine play tonight. I think I'm going to go there. I think he can step up and have a good one. I know his minutes, if the game stays close, should be solidified. I think he's really in position to have a good game here. As far as the other peripheral parts of the Dallas lineup, there's a lot of rotation with these guys. I will say that Tim Hardaway Jr. had a super, super quiet game against the Lakers, but he's been red hot, and he's a guy that you may want to consider. Now, he's probably going to get some Josh Hart defense, some Lonzo Ball defense, and those guys aren't bad. I know, again, the defensive backcourt for the Pelicans statistically have been terrible, but those guys are not bad defenders. So, Hardaway's price has gone up a little bit too much for my liking, so I'm not going to go there. But I think his minutes and floor are pretty safe. The rest of the guys, there's just a lot of rotation going on right now. Are they going to play? How much is Powell, Kleba, Finney Smith, Jackson? All these guys are going to rotate. DeLon Wright had a fantastic game in LA. But again, you can't trust any of those guys' minutes, and Carlisle just plays so many guys, so many minutes. I wouldn't go there. On the Pelican side, I'll tell you what, I know it's weird, but I sort of like Lonzo Ball tonight. It feels like the kind of game where, if he's 100%, and we need to follow that news because I know he's been playing and then sat a little, then played again. But it just seems like the kind of game that, the Dallas defense doesn't match up real well. In his size, if he's hitting some shots, I think he's going to get the rest of the stats with rebounds, maybe some steals, and even some blocks. And I like Lonzo Ball's potential. I have not rostered him all year, but I think he's a good potential guy. Drew Holiday certainly in play. I think he's a really good play tonight if the game stays close. So I like those two guys. As far as Brandon Ingram, I love him. I play him all the time. I just think Finney Smith does such a nice job defensively, and so does DeLon Wright, so does Justin Jackson. And I think those guys will rotate on Ingram and keep him a little bit more in check. So with his price, I don't think I'm going to pay up. I think I would rather go with two other Pelicans in the backcourt, save some dollars there, and still get the production. So that's what I'm looking at here. I'm going, probably Porzingis, Holiday, Ball. Certainly if I decide my pay up spot's going to be Luka, which I don't think it's going to be tonight, but those guys are all in play. Okay, we have two games left. The 8:30 p.m. Eastern game is the Houston Rockets at the San Antonio Spurs. Interesting situation with the Spurs, just stunning. The Spurs are 7-14, and I believe they've lost 10 in a row, or at least close to that. The Rockets are 13-6. We know the Houston Rockets play super fast, second in the league. They just got passed by Washington, but Houston still at 107.5 is still amazing pace without question. They get up and down the floor. The Spurs, on the other hand, are 16th, so sort of mid-level pace. That's certainly some concern. The defensive side, just unbelievable. The Spurs, third to last, 28th in the league. Just can't get over that they're that bad defensively. And they haven't shown any signs of really coming out of it. They just don't defend well anywhere on the floor. Houston is 15th. They're dead square in the middle. And a lot of reason of that is Westbrook's been D'ing it up at the point, shutting guys down. So that is certainly something to look at. LaMarcus Aldridge has been dinged up, so we have to watch for player news on him. I think DeMar DeRozan may get guarded by Westbrook just because he's such a good on-the-ball defender right now. If that's the case, then that's going to eliminate DeRozan. I'm going to do a little digging, though, because if DeRozan gets any Harden defense, then I think DeRozan is in play without question. So that's going to be dependent on news on which way you want to go on that side. As far as the Spurs go, I don't like anybody else there. Capella's back, so the interior defense is sewn up again. So you definitely don't want to look that direction. My pay-up guy tonight, I think you start your lineup with James Harden. I know it's boring. I know he's going to be highly owned. I don't know if he's going to be higher owned than Luka, though. It's going to be close, I think. I think both those guys are going to be super high owned, but I believe Harden's the guy. The concern is, does Houston blow them out? Well, it's very, very possible. San Antonio has been getting drilled, but there's two things that come into play with that. Number one, it's in San Antonio, so that helps for sure. And the second thing is D'Antoni's an idiot. I mean, he plays his dudes so many extra minutes unnecessarily and then wonders why this team goes in the tank and is tired in the playoffs. I mean, the damn guy played Harden 38 minutes in a preseason game earlier this year. Last game, they were up 50, and he was playing him in the fourth quarter, letting him try to get his career high of 61 or whatever. I mean, like it's some AAU game. I mean, D'Antoni's a fool. I'm sorry. For the Rockets fans out there, it just doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, that being said, they're somewhat a little bit blowout proof. They're going to play their guys extra minutes regardless of the score. So that makes Harden 100% in play for me. I love Capella tonight. I need to make sure there's not a minutes restriction or cap on his minutes. I hope there's not, because if he gets 30 minutes, he should absolutely destroy the interior of the Spurs here. But if he's on a restriction, then we're going to have to look into that a little bit more. I would love to be able to play. My ideal goal would be able to stack 3 guys out of this game. If I find that Harden is going to play DeRozan defensively, if I can find that information matchup wise, then I'll roster DeRozan, especially if LaMarcus is out. And then I'd like to follow that on the other side with Harden and Capella. So I'm going to use a lot of my salary in this game, but I think this game could be in the 120s, 130s easy. And I'm sure the over-under in Vegas will show that as well. So, definitely like to focus on that game. Okay, the late night sweat game, 2 more games. I'm sorry. We have Lakers, Nuggets, and Blazers, Clippers. So we have a 9:00 Lakers, Clippers game. It's in Denver, so that always puts a little twist. Definitely a home court advantage for Denver with the altitude. Denver's playing at the 27th slowest pace, of course, because it's Jokic. I know I make fun of him on every show. Bounce, bounce, look back door, bounce, bounce. Take a little spin, little back over the head pass to a guy cutting back door. So there's your whole shot clock. So, yeah, we know Denver slows it down. That definitely hurts the Lakers a little bit. Lakers are only 17th in pace anyway. They're playing a little bit of 2-man ball with LeBron and AD in the half-court set. So this shouldn't be a super high-scoring game, which with the huge salaries of LeBron and Davis and Jokic's price is pretty high. That's where I'm not too thrilled to go. So I would much rather use my pay up with Harden or even somebody like a Drummond or Beal. Those kind of guys I think are much stronger plays tonight than the LA duo or Jokic as well. From a defensive efficiency standpoint, just to double check that as well, you've got Denver, number 1 defense in the league right now. So that says a lot. Lakers, number 3 defense in the league. So I don't, for those guys, they're going to stack up this game or even spend the kind of money to have a correlation with a Davis Jokic or LeBron Jokic. I just think it's crazy. I just don't see the reason to go there. You've got 2 of the best 3 defensive teams in the league. They both play a slower pace, especially Denver. And this game is going to have a lot of significance. Denver thinks they are the bad man in town, 13-4, lot to prove against a 17-3 Lakers team who's coming off a loss. So these 2 teams should be button heads, playing hard. I think it should be a close game, which is good on the minutes, but I just don't think it overcomes the salary. So I think, in a nutshell, I think this game will get quite a bit of ownership. I mean, both teams, they combine for a 30-7 record, so these teams can play. I just think that they negate each other too much on the defensive side to make value. And I can see this being a 107, 103 kind of game where they, just possession by possession in the fourth quarter where they eat clock. So I am going to pass on this game. If I did have a flyer play, Will Barton has been playing terrific lately. His level of play has really been up there. So that'd be one flyer guy if you need a fill a spot and you want somebody in that game. Okay, last game of the night, late night sweat, 10 o'clock. It's the only game that starts that late Eastern. It is Portland Trailblazers 8-12 with the player of the week, Carmelo Anthony, which is amazing, hard to believe and shocking, against the LA Clippers 15-6. We do not have any news of any of the Clippers sitting. Definitely tune in for that. You never know what they're going to do with, of course, Paul George and especially Kawhi Leonard. So certainly something to keep an eye on here. That has a lot to do with roster construction for this slate as well. As of this moment, it doesn't look as though anybody's sitting out. So certainly can look at this game initially. It is the late TNT game. Should get a little extra ownership boost just because of that. That makes me a little wary, but let's take a look at this from a pace standpoint. Portland is 9th, so they're top 10 in the league in pace, and the Clippers are 8th. So you got two top teners. So they're going to get up and down. They're both over 105, 105.3, and 105.4. So this should be a game where there are some points put up on the board. The difference here, though, and it's a pretty vast difference, is Portland is not good defensively. They're 21st. The Clippers, on the other hand, are 11th, so quite a bit better. Not where you would expect them to be. Clippers with that group of guys should be top number 1, really, let alone top 10. But they're 11th. So that does lend to the fact that there could be some scoring in this game. And it puts a lot of guys in play. I mean, if you try to game script this, you got Pat Bev that's probably going to guard Lillard. So that's enough to scare me off Lillard. I think it brings CJ into play a little bit. But, he's been cut into quite a bit by Carmelo. So, from a usage standpoint, Portland was such a fun team before Carmelo joined there because you could count on Lillard or CJ to smash every night. But now you've got such a triple usage split here. And then Whiteside's presence in the inside, he can also do some damage. I don't trust Whiteside, especially with the interior defense of the Clippers. I think Montrez beats him up a little bit when he gets in there, and Zubac is a big enough body, I think, to lay on Whiteside a little bit as well. I'm not playing Lillard against Pat Bev. CJ, so let's look at CJ and Carmelo. Carmelo, check out, no thank you, because he's going to get Kawhi or Paul George defense. I mean, can you imagine they're both guys on the same team? How'd you like to face split? You got a fresh Kawhi and then a fresh Paul George on you? No way. So Carmelo's off the list. I guess that process of elimination means the guy that has the best opportunity for an upswing here is probably CJ, and he can get hot. I love the rotation with Portland when they take Lillard out 6 minutes into the first quarter and let CJ really run the offense for the rest of the first quarter and the first 3 minutes of the second quarter. So CJ's in play for me. He'd be the one the one Blazer that I would play tonight. I think he's a nice play at a fair price that has a pretty damn safe floor and a really nice ceiling. On the Clippers side, it's starting to get painstaking. Do George and Kawhi split smash stats so much, and they're both so highly priced that you can afford to take one or the other. It's sort of like the whole LeBron Anthony Davis thing with the Lakers. You have two of the top 5 or 6 salaries and are both going to always make value. Maybe they can both sneak by at 5x, but generally what's going to happen, and what's happening with both of these pairs, is one usually makes it and one doesn't. This last game, for example, Paul George went absolutely nuts in the first half. He had 28-9 real points and looked like he was on his way to an 80-point fantasy night. But, they flip roles in the second half. Kawhi came out, dominated the second half, actually ended up with more points than George, but they both made value, but 5.5x, which is a lot of points. You need those points, but can you afford both? And if you don't take both, which one do you take? They're going to see defense from Portland of guys like Harkless, and nobody that really is going to is it Harkless or no? He moved on. He's with the Clippers. So Portland's bigs, they don't have Harkless or Amino. That's why they stink this year, is they can't defend those wings. So both of those Clippers, Kawhi and George are in play. Let's face it. I know that's not news to anybody, but Portland doesn't defend that well. Their wings you're killing them. So playing one of the two guys is probably necessary under these circumstances. I would say, go for it. Not positive which guy. Let's look at the news. Let's try to determine, when Kawhi does play, he's been playing really good minutes. So, and his usage has been, low 30s. So you got to look at Kawhi. Paul George can get hot with the best of them in the league. So one of those two guys is in play. There's no doubt. So what I'll probably do in that game is grind out, try to make the choice between the two stud Clippers, and follow it up with CJ on the other side. So that's it. I think that is the entire slate of 7 games. I think it gives you a really good feel for what's out there tonight. There's a lot of great plays. There's not like just dead chalk that everybody's going to have the same guys. I mean, look at this. These are the guys we have on this slate: Luka, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Damian Lillard, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Nikola Jokic, Bradley Beal, Andre Drummond. I mean, oh my gosh, what a slate. So, it's not going to be a matter of, guys smashing. It's going to be which guys do you choose. I mentioned almost 15 guys there. They're all going to be probably in the top 20 in salary. And let's face it, you can probably only take maybe 3 of them at the most, depending on how you spread that out, maybe even 2 if you're taking 2 of the more expensive guys. So it's going to be a massively important roster construction. It's not going to be like some of these other slates where everybody uses the same 2 or 3 value pieces and everybody buys up to the 2 or 3 main pieces if it's just Luka or just Harden or just Kawhi and George. I mean, these guys are all in play. So I'm loving this slate. I think it's going to be a fun night. Hopefully this breakdown helped you a little bit. It's still, Tuesday morning, so take a listen to this throughout the day. Soak it in. Jump on hoop-ball.com. Click on forums. Go to the DFS thread. I'm going to be putting all the player news up there. Same with Miles and Andy. They'll be updating everything throughout the day. That's going to be very key. And then jump on Twitter with all of our DFS pros. All 4 of us will be on there today for questions. We'll be tweeting stuff. We'll be retweeting player news. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi, and then at Mike Apotria, Mikeapotria. Andrew is at Language Olympic, and Miles is at Miles6565. So that's what I would recommend. Listen to the show, jump on Twitter, follow it up to lock, and then let's just crush it tonight. So thank you so much for joining me on another edition of Hoop Ball NBA DFS today. For all my pros, Miles, Andrew, Mike, I am Coach, and we will catch you again tomorrow as we look to crush it on DFS.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.